Hi, my name is Nikki Allison. I'll be discussing my project-based unit called Thanksgiving Menu. I've always enjoyed problem-based assignments and tasks as part of my instruction, but during this unit creation, it really was much more involved than my typical units or my typical tasks. So basically, a problem-based unit is a way of teaching where students are gaining knowledge and experience through accomplishing a goal, completing a task, or solving a problem. And it typically takes, it's a good amount of time. It's fairly time consuming. My unit's called the Thanksgiving Menu. The rationale behind my unit is that decimals are so important in everyday life. When you're buying gas, when you're buying groceries, paying bills, planning an event, money's going to be involved, therefore decimals are going to be involved. And also it's one of those power standards that a 5th grade student needs to be successful in 6th, 7th, 8th grade and beyond, as well as just everyday life. Without some basic decimal computation skills, you as an adult, you wouldn't be very successful budgeters or planners. So it's just one of those skills that everybody needs as an adult. The purpose or the goal for the Thanksgiving project is for teams to compete against one another to prepare the most appealing menu for the school's Thanksgiving lunch, as well as the best priced menu. So students must create their menu, calculate cost per person, cost per class, which we'll assume is about 25 kids, cost per grade level, which we'll assume is about 100 kids, and cost per school, which is about 500 kids. They'll then present their menus and their cost analysis to the principal, the cafeteria manager, the public's representative, and the PTO president at the end of the unit. So they'll be asked to address how they figured out servings or cost per person, how they figured out how much it would cost to feed 25 people, 50 people, 100 people this menu, as well as any coupons they may have used to discount their cost. The timeline for this type of project would be 90-minute class periods over a 4-week period of time. Within those 4 weeks, there would be opportunities for mini lessons to really understand skills and to be able to practice those skills, as well as group planning days where students would be able to apply those skills to the project. One of the mathematical standards that's addressed here is the Common Core standard of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing decimals. So this is basically all decimal computation. It's a pretty big skill, which is part of the reason it takes so long to accomplish this task, as well as estimation, which isn't a Common Core skill, but it is an SPI that's currently being taught by the state. The state has adopted the mathematical practices, which you see 4 of them in front of you. The mathematical practices addressed by my unit include mathematical practices 1, 2, 3, and 6. So mathematical practice 1 is making sense of problems and persevere in solving them, and that is applicable to all the mathematical tasks within this unit. Mathematical practice 2, reasoning abstractly and quantitatively, is applicable to most of the tasks in this unit because most of the task requires both an estimation, which would be more abstract, and an exact answer. Mathematical practice 3, constructing viable arguments and critiquing the reasoning of others, is very applicable in the overall project of creating the Thanksgiving menu, as well as the instructional tasks throughout. This is a good opportunity for students to justify the reasoning with one another, because there is going to be some concern as, is my answer right or is your answer right? So there's going to be a lot of that kind of conversation happening as they're planning these projects. And then, of course, attending to precision is always a big deal when you're doing any kind of computation. So decimal computation is no different. Being precise in your answers is very important. There are many ISTE standards reached through this unit. The first is creativity and innovation. So students will be creating original works, and this is just as a result of the presentations that they're going to be asked to give throughout the unit. Communication and collaboration. So to interact and collaborate and to publish with peers, we're going to really be using the Edmodo site as a publishing site and as a collaborative site. Contribute to project teams to produce an original work. So that's where the collaborative teams come in when creating the Thanksgiving menu group project. There's going to be a lot of collaboration there and people contributing to that final presentation. Researching and informing with some fluency. Throughout the project, there are going to be some instructional tasks that require students to do some investigation online, and to analyze what they're seeing and to synthesize and to produce some kind of presentation for the class through Edmodo. So that one would be reached there. Evaluating and selecting information sources and tools based on them being appropriate. Well, based on the instructional task and what they're asked to be do, students are going to have to make decisions about which websites would be most appropriate to find that information, and then what's the most appropriate way to present this to my classmates. So they'll also be thinking about that. Processing data and reporting results. So for sure, the Thanksgiving menu project is going to ask them to do this at the end when they present to the board. Critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. So students are going to be asked to identify the problems that could exist in their project and the questions that they need to answer along the way. And that's part of that planning in day one. What are our goals and coming up with those? And that oftentimes will come up with the questions that need to be answered as well. Planning and managing activities, again with the timeline, they're making a plan, and with our group managers or our project managers, that'll help with the management of the overall timeline. Collecting and analyzing data to develop solutions or complete a project is exactly the purpose of this project. So they're going to have to collect some information, analyze it, synthesize it, manipulate it in order to give their presentation, because remember, they're having to plan for one person, 25 people, 100 people, and 500 people. So that's a lot of information. Understanding and using technology. They're going to need to be familiar with the iPad and a computer and how to use it, because those are our tools that we will be using for research. And then selecting the appropriate applications to use. So knowing which tool would be used when we want to share information with our group versus presenting information to the class. And you can see our overview of week 1. It focuses on Monday focuses on planning what the group's purpose is. Tuesday and Wednesday both focus on estimating sums and differences and finding decimal sums and differences. In both of those, there's an activity associated with it, where on Tuesday they're having to estimate an entire weeks of groceries. So I'm giving them a data table which basically says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and they're planning an entire week. And they're just going to estimate their cost on Tuesday, and then they're going to turn around and do the same thing on Wednesday with a budget. So on Wednesday, they cannot exceed the $150 mark. In addition, on Wednesday, we'd have a public representative come and speak to the class about budgeting, couponing, and whatnot. Thursday would be an independent task, and that independent task is described there. I'll allow you to read that. But it basically is going to assess what we did on both Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Friday's a work day where students would be able to work in their groups and determine what their menu is and start thinking about cost. Week 2 is all about multiplication. So on week 2, we start off with multiplying powers of 10. And you can see there's an activity called What Can I Buy for a Foot? And you can read how that's going to require some online investigation. and calculating purchases of 10 feet, 100 feet, and 1,000 feet of some product. Tuesday, the objectives estimating costs, and we're talking about products. So you can see the activities called buying items by the pound, and we're really going to be investigating items in the grocery store that are purchased by the pound, like a turkey. And they'll be calculating cost by 4 pounds, 8 pounds, and 12 pounds. Wednesday, we're going to focus on multiplying decimals and whole numbers. The activity is called buying many of the same. We're going to be estimating costs and finding exact costs of multiple items. Thursday, we'll have a guest speaker like a caterer come to talk about how to figure portions and cost. Friday is, of course, a work day. Week 3, we see that we're focusing on multiplying that week and then getting into dividing. So we'll finish up our multiplying by decimals on Monday with the activity buying by the pound, and we're going to focus on when a pound's in a whole number. So we'll be finding estimates and actual costs of multiplying decimals by decimals. Tuesday, we'll have an individual assessment, and you can see the situation that's typed there. It's a real life situation that they're going to have to apply their skills, addition, subtraction, multiplication. Wednesday, dividing by powers of 10. So the activity here focuses on price per pound and comparing, finding the price per pound if we would to have purchased 10 pounds of something, 100 pounds of something, and 1,000 pounds. What would the price per pound be? Thursday, we focus on estimating quotients, and the activity is called estimating drive times. And you can see they have an opportunity to explore MapQuest, 5 places they want to visit in Tennessee, and estimating the driving time given those parameters. Friday, of course, is a work day. Week 4 focuses mostly on division. So we see Monday, the activity dividing decimals by whole numbers is splitting the bill. Students explore a lunch option and divide it equally amongst themselves. Tuesday is dividing decimals by decimals. Students explore what the better buy is. And then Wednesday is an individual assessment. And then, of course, Thursday and Friday are work days where students can kind of tie up loose ends and finalize their projects. Instructional aids that I use include my textbook and the Buck Institute for Education. My textbook really gave me a good base to start with their instructional activities, and Buck Institute gave me a really good overview of what a problem-based unit should look like. And that's just a really brief overview of my problem-based unit for how to plan a Thanksgiving menu. Thank you for listening.